Welcome, everybody. This is the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. Every week, we try to bring you stories of people who are doing wonderful and interesting things around the world, who have ideas to share, and hopefully we'll be speaking to all of those things that we think are important. Certainly service, as Rotarians everywhere. We find all kinds of ways to make our communities near and far all the better. And we also work hard in our club to focus on issues related to innovation, education, and entrepreneurship. And so we've got a cool, innovative education program for you today. And I am excited to introduce our speaker. Before I do, I'll let you know we do have another person on the recording. That's Chris Cochran in Canada, who is a founding member of the club, and with whom I have had years and years of Rotary experience. Good dude, and he waves and smiles to the group. Good man, right? And my name is Rushton Hurley. I have been with the eClub of Silicon Valley since its founding in January of 2015. I'd also like to introduce Shags Chagrin. Shags Chagrin is another founding member of the club, and one of those guys who's kind of the least boring people you know, right? One of those guys. Loads of talent on the cooking front and all of that kind of thing. Welcome, Shags. All right. So with that, I'd like to... Thank you, sir. With that, I'd like to introduce our speaker. So Jan Horsley has been connected to Rotary for almost 50 years. Her husband was a member starting in 1972, and at the time, women were not allowed in Rotary. We have since evolved in much more positive directions, since that time. But having been a part of Rotary activities for so long, she decided in 2012 it was time to join, and so she has been a part of her club in Western Australia, in Perth, for the last 6 years. Now, she discovered a really interesting program, as many of us in Rotary do, that really touched her heart, and she's going to tell us a little bit about that today. So, with that, I want to hand it over to our speaker, Jan Horsley. Jan, tell us a little bit about your connections to this wonderful program in Cambodia.
Well, hello, Rushton. Lovely to be talking with you today and your members. Yes, I became involved with this program in Cambodia in 2014. I was president of my Rotary Club here in Western Australia, and I was approached by a local disability group who asked me to engage, if our club could engage, with some of their clients. So we did that. And as a result, we had the group come along and speak to us at our Rotary meeting, and they told us about their project in Cambodia, which they had been working with really since about 2008, but particularly since 2012. And the staff were involved in fundraising. They were having quiz nights and balls and goodness knows what to raise money to send to Cambodia. And the disability service provider themselves were also doing that. They were providing a small percentage of their income to assist Cambodia as a social sort of enterprise endeavour, and to keep their staff engaged and to really let them see just how the other half, or more than the other half, in third world developing countries live. And it's been a wonderful project for them. But unfortunately, the Australian government has changed their funding model for providing for disability services, and so now there's not quite as much spare revenue to assist with this venture in Cambodia and to grow it and extend it beyond the handfuls of people that they've been helping so far. So that's sort of where we're at, so my husband and I have been to Cambodia twice now. We were so inspired with what we saw, and we've got to know Nimel, the leader of the project, and many of the students. And we've had one of the students out to Australia with us, and yeah, it's been just quite wonderful. And I'm seeking support basically from clubs around the world. There are two components to the project. We've got the university houses, which have been going since 2012, and we've also got an outreach program that we want to start. There's been a bit of a pilot project but it really needs to be extended because there are vast numbers of young people with disability in Cambodia that need help to gain an education, to continue with their education. They're generally, by the time they reach puberty, they're considered by their families, if they are able to do any sort of work or go onto the streets begging, it's considered that's more important for the well-being of the family than continuing in education. So the outreach program really that I'm seeking support for, and hopefully to obtain a global grant, would be to provide a vehicle, a couple of staff members, and to continually be out and assessing young people with disability and nurturing them, keeping them at home to complete their education, and then give them opportunities then to proceed on to tertiary education or trades training.
Wonderful. And I understand you've got some pictures for us to see, where we can really kind of get a sense of who these folks are that are being helped by the program.
Yes, I do have a few photographs. Just bear with me a moment. And we'll start the show.
Perfect.
Okay, so yeah, basically without education, there's not much of a future for these young people. And as has been discovered in the last few years, the children that have been selected so far have been very bright and able to go on, complete their university studies, gain a degree and gain employment. In Cambodia, poverty is really linked with disability. You don't find disabled young people in middle class or upper class families. It's the province of the poor, and many of them, it's a pretty terrible lifestyle that they live. 60% of the Cambodian population as a whole live in poverty, extreme poverty, on less than $1 US dollar a day. So that'll just give you an illustration of just how poverty stricken they are. This fellow is Nimelush. Nimel's the director of disability service provider, Essential Personnel Cambodia. Nimel was injured as a young man in the Pol Pot regime when there was the civil war in Cambodia, and that's only going back now about just over 30 years. There was no medical treatment available. Most of the medical and educated people of the country had been murdered by the regime. And so Nimel grew up with his arm becoming quite withered and disabled. He was taken in by the Maris Brothers group, an Australian religious order, and educated, and then proceeded on to university. He obtained a science degree, but then couldn't find work anywhere, not as a teacher, as nothing, because of his disability. So he then basically decided that would be his mission in life, would be to make a change for people with disability in Cambodia. And here we have in 2012 Nimel on the left-hand side with the first group of young female students. And these girls all went on to graduate from university and obtain work. Here they are again, many of them working in government departments. Here we have Yaroon and Saroon. Saroon's on the right. He's still in the university house and studying accounting. He's a very bright boy. They're both pretty bright young men. And it's just been a pleasure to get to know them over the years. Here we have the boys in the boys' university house. As you can see, they all look very bright, well-nourished young men. And they're great friends. The friendships continue. Now they've left university. They meet up frequently. Here are some of the boys and girls together. They were making a bit of a presentation to a government department for highlighting, their exceptional good luck in being given the opportunity to gain a tertiary education. And here again, they are on an outing around Phnom Penh, for people with disability, it's almost impossible for them to get around. Most of them don't have aids, so even a wheelchair or crutches. You know, most poor people with disability are forced to drag themselves around on the ground, or the parents carry them. Here we have 4 of the students at an IT challenge, which is an annual event in Southeast Asia. And in 2016, they went to Indonesia to compete in the IT challenge and did very, very well. And it was the first time any of them had ever flown or been out of their country, of course. And all these opportunities just make for, you know, giving people wonderful expectations and hopes and dreams. And for these young people, that has certainly come true. They've now graduated. These 2, San and Monorom, are now married. San has just one leg. She takes Monorom everywhere to work. Here we have 2 of the students from the university house, 2 of the girls that on their graduation day, looking very happy and thrilled. And again, something that just wouldn't have happened in years gone by, and without the opportunity given to them by Essential Personnel Cambodia. Here we have San and Polong, and they're both very good speakers, both speak excellent English, and they were in a debating team, and photograph taken at the time. Again, just wonderful opportunities that are given to them because of their education that just otherwise would not have happened. And here we have Monorom on the back of the motorbike that San, his now wife, takes him to work with and out and about, and young Sarun. So they catch up with students still in the university house every few weeks. And here we have San and Monorom at their new house. They're employed in the government department and had access to obtain a loan, which they will repay to the government within 5 years. It's a very small little house, but it's beautiful for them. They are so thrilled. They're so happy. It's beyond their expectations that before they completed their studies, they could have ever owned a home. And they're also giving back. There's my husband, David. They're on the right at the rear, along with San's younger sister. And San and Monorom just give their time with a lot of voluntary service. Monorom teaches young people in his community free of charge English and mathematics. And they're just giving back. So that's the wonderful thing about this too, that the students just sort of realise that without the luck that they've had, what they've been given, the world would be very different for them. And here they are. My husband and David and I went out to dinner with San and Monorom. We invited them to dinner at our hotel, and this is them as they're leaving the hotel. San has just one leg, but she rides that 3-wheel motorbike with skill. And Monorom, who's can't use his legs, has to be lifted on and off the bike. But they sail around Phnom Penh completely in charge. It's a delight to see. And here we have the new group of students. David and I were in Phnom Penh in February, and that's myself on the right. Next to me is Vu, who's the head teacher. And Vu himself was a disabled young man who obtained or was offered surgery on his legs and feet to correct a deformity that he had. And he decided on that himself. His family were against it when he was 12. He was from a poor farming family. He wanted an education. He used to scramble across the fields for a few kilometres to go to school each day. He took the opportunity of the offer for an operation, and here he is now, fine. He's got his own young family, healthy and happy, and he's helping these young people to find their destiny as well. Here we have 3 of the girls currently in the university house, fine young women. The lass on the left she speaks beautiful English and wants to be a teacher, and I've no doubt that she will. Her grades are really excellent. The other two girls are just starting out. This is their first year. And here we are with Nimel on the right, and next to him, Tony Marwick, who's from the group in Perth that have been supporting Essential Personnel Cambodia, and one of Tony's employees, Maria. And we've got Vu again, the teacher, with three of the boys in this year's university house. The boy next to Vu in the purple shirt, the boy in the blue shirt, doesn't look severely disabled, but he has epilepsy and prone to fitting quite frequently, and it's a real challenge for him and for them at the university house. He frequently needs medical attention. The young lad in the middle, as you can see, has birth deformity, and it's sort of the sort of deformity that really makes it very difficult for people to get by in Cambodia, because deformity is seen as a form. They believe in karma. They're a Buddhist sort of Hindu version of Buddhism that believes in karma. So you suffer these disabilities because of past sins in previous lives. The young chap on the end, was born fine, but he crawled into an open pit fire at his family as a 12-month-old and basically burnt his hands and all his toes off. So he has a struggle also. Now, that's the university houses, but now onto the outreach program, and this is where we want to get out and find as many young people as possible. The Cambodian Department of Education and their various provincial administration officers have basically told Essential Personnel how many young people they have, and in each province it's in the hundreds and the many hundreds that seek support. The government at this stage is still recovering from the Civil War 30 years ago, and there's major developments to still be done in infrastructure. The country is growing and burgeoning, but there are still so many young people that need help. And this is a young man that's been given crutches, a uniform, school materials, and his family provided with $50 per annum to ensure that he stays at school. So students that are sort of scholastically have the aptitude to continue on are encouraged to stay on, because otherwise they will end up on the scrap heap, basically, with not much hope for any job other than very menial or begging. This young man with a wheelchair given to him by Essential Personnel provided, and this is a pilot program. This young man with his prosthesis legs, I don't know what happened to him, what caused his injury, but he will be aided as well. This young girl without hands, given a bike, and again, same thing, school uniform, school materials, and the family are given $50 per annum to keep the students at school. And here are a couple of girls being given their bikes and all the school hierarchy out, and Vu there in the purple shirt to present the aid to them. And finally, just a couple of the young lasses just with one arm, looking very bright and full of the joys of life, neat and tidy in these school uniforms, and hopefully with a very bright future ahead of them. So that's it, Rushton. I've finished my slideshow. So as I said, basically the university house is the ongoing project that our club is supporting, but it's the outreach program is the one that really needs the aid to get that going.
Wonderful. Well, Jan, go ahead and make your way back to Zoom and we're back with us. Thank you. It is great to hear about a program like this, and in part because it is both the program doing all of these wonderful things, and it is your experience of encountering it. I have met so many Rotarians who went to their meeting one week, or caught their meeting one week, in case of, like one of ours, and they hear about a program and it touches their heart, and they decide, I'm gonna help make a difference with that somehow. I'm gonna figure out how, but I'm gonna do it. And then they connect with some people, and then they begin working on possibilities, and organizations get involved, and it's amazing how much good can be done that way. So tell us a little bit about that first meeting. So you're attending your Rotary meeting, and I guess somebody associated was giving the presentation. Is that right? How did that work out?
That's correct. Yes, Rushton. They had a PowerPoint presentation with some photographs of the young people that they'd been helping, and just the fact that all the staff were engaged as well, and also giving up the cost of a cup of coffee a day to help fund. Thought, wow, this is really a marvelous combined effort of people that have been inspired. And as it turns out, the provider in Western Australia sends staff to Cambodia every year to sort of help out a little here and there, and just to get a real understanding of the problems that they face there. When we live in developed countries, Western democracies, it's very hard to appreciate just how difficult things are in these third world countries. And I mean, not Cambodia's third world, it's a developing country. And Phnom Penh itself, I can see the difference in it since my husband and I first went in 2015, and then again this year. In 3 years, the growth, the investment from overseas companies has been quite outstanding. But the rural areas, the poor areas, there's still much of that, as I say. More than half the population still live on less than $1 a day. So it's getting out to those rural areas that the outreach program is aiming to do, to give so many more young people an opportunity to engage in education and some hope for the future. And the Cambodian government is coming on board, but again, resources are rather limited, and I guess it's one step at a time. So they're relying on NGOs and outsiders to support them until they're in a situation where they can help themselves.
Makes sense. Well, I want to make sure that Chris and Shags have the opportunity to ask questions as well. Chris, I think you've got a thought to share. Go ahead and unmute everything there and kick in.
I don't know if we're on or not, but my question is, how can we help?
Well, as I mentioned, Chris, I think the way to help them to gain sufficient funds would be to get a global grant going. My district here in WA is only a small district where
Right.
we cover a big landmass. We're almost 1 million square miles, believe it or not.
Wow.
But we have just over 40 clubs, and all clubs are relatively small in size. So our district designated funds are rather small this year and next year, what we've got left this year and certainly next year, unfortunately. And so we're seeking support too from clubs internationally and districts to come on board and give us a hand and get this up and running so that we can provide a vehicle. At the moment, with the pilot program, the teacher, Vu, was riding his own motorbike. He does hundreds and hundreds of kilometres a week riding his motorcycle.
Wow.
And over long distances, and it's not much fun, very, very tiring. And so preferably a vehicle, say a twin cab type vehicle that with a back tray on the back, utility type vehicle that can be used to build ramps, do other things as well, in assisting schools to provide facilities for their students. There has been some of that already ongoing, but at the moment they don't have a vehicle. It's just the motorcycle
So
and even transporting students that might need medical help. Some of their outreach students, it makes it very difficult.
Can you provide a link where donations can be
funding,
sent?
for sure.
Can you provide a link that we can put somewhere where the donations can be sent?
Well, as I say, through a global grant, I can certainly provide you with some information on that to your club, because that would be a club decision, or a club in your district possibly, or somewhere in the US, and their district, if they had the funds to come on board. What the story they've done with the University House, they've started a $1 foundation, and that's $1 US dollar per month. All the ex-students, and there's not many of them, but they've started it and are inviting their friends, workmates to contribute this $12 US per annum to this foundation, in the hope that that will sort of multiply and start providing some funding. In Australia, we have, and my club, we applied for a RORCS certification, which is Rotary Australia World Community Service, which provides tax deductibility for Australians to give donations. But I don't think that would help much with US contributions. But I guess the contributions could always be made to the Rotary Club of Northam, and we could then pay that through RORCS, and that also, would assist.
Yeah, the
$1 foundation. The $1 foundation can just be accessed by going to info@essentialpersonnelcambodia.com. They will then get back in touch with you and provide.
Thank you.
How you go about it.
Thank you. In my case,
it
it'd be a Canadian dollar, but which is equivalent to about an Australian dollar.
No, it's worth about as.
Yeah.
Worth a bit more, is that? Yeah, they wax and wane a bit, don't they? Between the Canadian and Australian dollar.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Never mind.
I'd like to do is see if Shag, do you have a comment or question that you can add?
No question, just an amazing program, and I honor you for what you're doing there. Thank you so much.
Very cool.
Thank you, Shag.
And one question I'll add, Jan, is there a focus with the students whom they meet on particular studies? Seemed that like many of them had strong language skills, or maybe IT skills, or were in teacher preparation, or is it really just looking for motivated kids with academic potential who need that extra assistance for whatever it is they're interested in?
Look, it has been to date just basically any student that they felt had the aptitude and the interest to carry on. But I know now there is going to be more of a concerted effort to find young people that may wish to do medical studies, studies of that sort. Of course, because when the Civil War was waging and the genocide that occurred, any educated person, even having glasses, spectacles, was enough to see your demise. So they're really starting from scratch educationally. There are other programs. I know in Cambodia there are a lot of international programs, particularly Australian. I might say Australia is the biggest aid provider to Cambodia. But there are other medical people, skilled people that are there trying to assist young Cambodians to gain qualifications. And it's been quite an eye-opener actually, just to see how many people are working to try and make a difference in this country. But hopefully in years to come, yes, the students will have a more of a broad cross-section of interests of study.
So good to hear the stories of all of the individual students too as well. Thank you very much for providing that level of detail. I mean, for people to really hit that point where they say, okay, this is something I need to be part of, then I feel personal stories are always an important component. For me, by the way, one of the exciting pieces for me in having you on is that Rotary allowed me to study in Western Australia almost 30 years ago, and so I went to many of those Western Australia clubs as an ambassadorial scholar, and enjoyed that time profoundly. So it is wonderful to have you on as a part as a part of our efforts here with the club. I'm going to give everybody kind of the wind down, and then afterwards I'll hand it back to you for kind of a last word. So if there's anything in particular you want to make sure we leave with right there on our heads, feel free to do so. All of you who have been watching this program, thank you so much for attending. We always love having people share the stories that we go out and find and that come to us, and we hope that you will share this with others. Let people know about this club, this online space for inspiration, for inspiring people to serve others, for finding ways to innovatively reach those in need, whether near or far. We hope that you'll let us know you were here. There is down below an attendance form, and that's really just a name and an email address. And by doing that, if you are a visiting Rotarian, you will get an email directed back to you that you can pass along to your secretary, so that if you are making up a missed meeting, you can do that. We are a club that believes in 100% attendance as a wonderful way to do Rotary, to get kind of re-energized each week with the wonderful things that are happening in our organization. There is also a discussion section at the bottom, DISQUS, and we want you to leave your thoughts about this program and the meeting in general, perhaps reply to some of the comments that are there as you see them. And we hope that we will not just see your comments below, but that we will see them this week and next week and next week and next week. We love getting people involved in the work we're doing. So with that, I would like to thank you for coming. Thank you for attending our meeting. Thank you for taking in the program, and hand it back to Jan for a last comment.
Well, thank you, Rushton. It's been lovely to meet you today. And I must admit, when you mentioned in your email that you'd attended university in Perth in 1991, I thought, no, I wonder if Rushton was an ambassadorial scholar. So I got it right. And that's really wonderful. I'll share that with my Rotary friends as well, that we've met up again. Look, I attended your meeting a couple of weeks ago when you had the lady from head office speaking on Polio Plus, and I thoroughly enjoyed the meeting. And I think eClubs have got a fabulous future for Rotary, and certainly in our part of the world where we are quite remote in many ways, and as I say, nearly 1 million square miles to cover. That it's a wonderful tool, and I'll certainly be sharing your meetings with our people here in Western Australia. Just in closing, look, if any of your viewers would like to get in touch with me, that might be the first step, and then I can set them in the direction of how to make donations, how to join in with the global grant, possibly. So my email address is horsleys@bigpond.com, and that's Horsleys, HORSLEYS @bigpond.com. So hopefully you might be able to include that in your meeting as well, Rushton, that email address, so that anyone that might be interested can get in touch. I'd love to hear from them. And look, there's opportunities as well for people to come to Cambodia, come pay a visit, see these young people for yourselves. That really makes the difference. Once you've seen them, get to know them, wow, there's no way you can't be affected. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.